And they say they're wondering where they're going to pump all of this water. Now, one of the residents here has supplied this water pump, but as you can see, it's probably not big enough to handle the job. This used to be a drain ditch right behind his house, but the city has since covered it up for the most part. He says there's another one right up the street, but there's one problem with that. This drain ditch is uphill from where he lives, about a block away. He wants to know how water from down there can flow up here. This drywall has been ripped off, exposing broken glass behind the wall and leaving open the question, how can this school possibly be open this month? Stork Manufacturing says its products are always the highest of quality. However, after doing business with them for only 2 months, there's one customer who strongly disagrees. Lee says the amount of business his shop receives from customers at La Plaza Mall across the street is always pretty good. He says if that business slows down, he has another type of customer he'll bank on. Days after the rain stopped falling and several areas are still affected by the aftermath, how this may impact you next in a live report. You can see a lot of these homes are still flooded out. Some of these properties look like lakes. Now, some local leaders are asking for your help in reporting damages.
With more, Frank.
Yes, this morning the victim, Angel Dominguez, remains in serious condition. Investigators say he was shot in the chest. A ceasefire announced by Hamas is in effect after a day of serious escalation along the Gaza border with Israel. Channel 5 News also reached out to ICE to find out when we can expect to see 1,000 detainees at El Valle Detention Center. Spokesperson Nina Pruneda tells us she does not know as of now. And Cecilia, nearly 500,000 teens took a test back in 1960. Now, decades later, that test may predict the risk of Alzheimer's disease.
This is Channel 5 News Sunday morning.
Good morning and thanks for tuning in to Channel 5 News Sunday morning. I'm Frank McCaffrey. We'll get to the top stories in just a few minutes, but first, it's a beautiful morning with nice temperatures and some pleasant clouds out there. For more on whether the pleasantries will continue, we go to Steven Sarabia for our first Warn 5 forecast. New details now on a double murder investigation in Edinburgh. Police have arrested 2 people. As we first reported, officers responded to a call for a welfare concern check at an RV park near the 8200 block of Expressway 281. When they arrived at the scene, they found the bodies of a male and female inside a mobile home. Police are still working to identify the 2 people killed and inform next of kin. Overnight, police telling us that they've arrested 2 people. Both are charged with capital murder and are expected to be arraigned Monday afternoon. Of course, we'll stay on top of the story and keep you informed of the very latest. Police in Harlingen are looking for the man who attacked an elderly woman in a store parking lot. They say a man pushed an 83-year-old woman outside of Marshall's on West Expressway 83. This happened Thursday afternoon. The suspect allegedly reached inside the victim's car, grabbed her purse, and fled the scene in a maroon vehicle. The suspect vehicle may have damage to the driver's side keyhole area. Anyone with information is asked to call Harlingen Crime Stoppers at 425-8477. In Forsyth County, Georgia, one man was killed after this small plane crashed on a highway on Saturday. According to police, the single-engine prop plane hit a small car. 2 other men in the plane survived the crash. No one in the car was injured. Police say they believe the pilot tried to make an emergency landing prior to the crash. And this was the scene overnight in Queens, New York, after an apartment building went up in flames just before midnight. When firefighters arrived on the scene, the fire was on the 1st and 2nd floors of the building, and with the fire extending to adjoining properties. An 82-year-old woman, an 87-year-old man, and a 32-year-old woman all were killed in the incident. 8 other people were taken to area hospitals. 3, including an 8-year-old girl, are listed in critical condition. The cause of the fire remains under investigation. At least 2 people are dead after a house fire and police standoff in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Chelsea Strubb reports. Still to come on Channel 5 News Sunday morning, North Korea's dear leader, Kim Jong-un, has vowed to shut down the country's nuclear test site. We'll have more just ahead. Plus,
we had an extensive conversation on the hardest issues that face our 2 countries. I had a clear mission statement from President Trump.
U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is talking more about his visit with the North Korean dictator. We'll hear more from him just ahead.
This is Channel 5 News Saturday morning.
Good morning, and thanks for tuning in to Channel 5 News Saturday morning. I'm Frank McCaffrey. We'll take a look at today's headlines in just a minute. But first, we have ourselves a pretty temperate Cinco de Mayo outside. For more on where the mercury will position itself as the fiesta continues today, we go to meteorologist Cecilia Gutierrez for a quick look at the first Warn 5 forecast. Cecilia? All right, thank you very much, Cecilia. Last night's storms left some Rio Grande City residents dealing with floodwaters. We're told emergency crews were called out to neighborhoods in the northern part of the city, the downtown area, and the Las Lomas subdivision to help with high water rescues. We're told no one was injured in the floods. Right now, voting locations across the valley are open. Voting runs until 7 tonight, and once the polls close, Channel 5 is your election headquarters. We're tracking several city and school races on ballots across the valley. For a closer look, head to our website, krgv.com, and click on the Vote 2018 logo on the homepage. And be sure to join us tonight for all your election results. We're following developing overnight news. Mission police have arrested a suspect wanted in connection with an assault on a police officer. Police arrested the suspect last night. He's currently being held in the Mission City jail. The suspect had fought off handcuffs following a traffic stop, jumped into his car and ran over the officer's leg and shoulder. The officer is recovering this morning. Now, we spoke to police in other cities. They say things like this happen quite often, especially during traffic stops. This morning, a federal investigation is targeting Palmview after city leaders self-reported possible problems with their asset forfeiture program. Depending on the outcome of a review by federal authorities, the city of Palmview could owe over $200,000. The program operated by the police department includes taking property that was involved in crimes. Money from the confiscated property is then returned to the city. City leaders recently discovered some issues. On Monday, the city received this notice. It reads in part, the money laundering and asset recovery section determined the internal controls pertaining to Palmview's asset forfeiture program do not provide reasonable assurance that the program funds are protected against waste, fraud, and abuse. City Manager Leo Olivares says funds were transferred to the city's general fund and misused on travel expenses. The fate of the city's asset forfeiture program will not be sealed until DOJ is done with its review. The city is unsure of when that will be. We'll keep track of this story and keep you updated. This morning, the FBI has not released any more information on a raid on one of the county courts at the Hidalgo County Courthouse. A bailiff was taken into custody. Our crews were first alerted to the raid around 5 on Friday afternoon. Hidalgo County Sheriff Eddie Guerra tweeted that agents were at County Court number 6. We're not releasing the bailiff's name until he's officially charged. An FBI spokesperson is expected to tell us more about the raid on Monday. Now, this morning, McAllen police say more arrests are coming in the wake of a raid in the entertainment district on early Friday morning. Lit Ultra Bar on 17th Street was hit by authorities from several agencies. Police were there on a warrant checking on reports of drug sales connected to the bar. An employee of a store nearby hopes the raid does not steer their customers away. Now, 23-year-old Ivan Gustavo Salinas is the only arrest so far. He's charged with unlawfully carrying a weapon. The federal government is beefing up manpower in immigration courts nationwide, including right here in the Valley. Now, we've been hearing about backlogs in the courts for years, but now the Justice Department is sending in resources to get more cases heard and closed. 8 new prosecutors have been assigned to immigration courts here in Texas. 2 of those courts are here in the Valley. More judges will also be assigned to those courts. And still to come on Channel 5 News Saturday morning, President Donald Trump now having to explain things for his lawyer after Rudy Giuliani's comments about a payment to Stormy Daniels.
A little bit of rain there.
Well, we can't complain about the sky out there this morning. It was beautiful, like a photographer's dream.
That's right. The sky does look really nice this morning. No slowdowns there.
Yeah, clear roads across the board. Thank you very much, Stephen, and thank you very much for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
All right, well, some showers and thunderstorms are moving into the area right now. Let's take a look at the radar. Saturday morning drive. All
right, but lots of rain to look forward to.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, thank you so much, Cecilia, and thank you for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye-bye.
And I hear that this is your wife's first Mother's Day.
That is correct. Our 9-month-old son, Lewis, is preparing gifts with help from his dad as we speak.
Awesome. Oh,
There he
you
is.
go.
There's my son.
Well, congratulations.
Still to come on Channel 5 News this morning, wait until you hear what song was chosen in the delivery room during a childbirth here in Texas. We'll give you a hint. Salt and Peppa would have been proud. More next. Of course, there's already a border fence. As you can see, it's at least 20 feet high. It's built in a way that's very difficult to climb, and it has spikes on the top. But the problem is this fence has gaps in it, and these gaps are so big you could probably put a train through them. One Hidalgo County resident says this is causing him trouble. Anastasio Farias says his part of the county was very different 48 years ago when he moved in. He says he rarely, if ever, saw people crossing the border illegally, but he notes there was the occasional argument on his block.
There was, families feuding, but not most of us. We were just here. But it was totally different as far as activity.
He says a lot has changed since those days, and he's seen in recent years more activity from people crossing over from Mexico into the U.S. He says he sees a lot of people trying to get into the U.S. right across the street from his house.
But it's mostly at the gates, at the levees, at the fence, where there's a gap. That's where we see little bunches of them.
Farias tells us seeing patrolling Border Patrol agents is a common sight these days.
There's been a lot of Border Patrol vehicles driving fairly fast, you want to get out of the way. Helicopters daily, 2-3 times a day, hovering close to here. And there's been people captured here in this property.
Farias says he doesn't know if a border wall on the levees will work or not. He adds he wants to know when the wall's construction will begin. We reached out to Customs and Border Protection to see when it plans to start the wall across the street from Farias. A spokesperson for CBP Border Patrol, Francisco Vallejo, says starting today, contractors for the Army Corps of Engineers are starting geometric surveying. We captured the workers on camera today just across the street from Farias. They're working on an IBWC levee between Abram and Mission, the planned alignment of the first border wall segment in Hidalgo County. Vallejo says they're doing a soil sample to see what elements those constructing the wall will have to deal with. He adds the wall construction project should start in a few months.
This is the initial phase, so they're out there doing soil sampling.
When is the actual border wall project supposed to start?
So we have a tentative schedule of either February, March timeframe.
Now, CBP did not give us any word on when that border wall project would be completed. In Hidalgo County, Frank McCaffrey, Channel 5 News at 5. The City of Weslaco's Public Works Department told us they were notified by the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality last October. The TCEQ notified them of needed repairs to the water tower. The leak is also a concern to nearby residents. Joel Romero has lived next door to the Weslaco, Kansas tower for 5 years. He claims it's leaked since he moved in.
Sometimes I think it's raining outside and it's the water tower. And I called the city department once. They laughed and they said, oh, we're going to check it out. They never did.
He says the tower leaks every other week. The loss of water concerns him.
It's all night, dripping all night. And then in the morning it's flooded. The alley is flooded and just a lot of water. A lot of water being wasted.
Romero says at times the leak makes him nervous.
All that water, I mean, we're gone. We're goners.
The city's wastewater superintendent says the water leak has existed for at least 4 years and it's grown over time. He says the city is in the process of obtaining quotes from contractors to fix up the leak in the next 2 weeks. He says the city sees it as an emergency but not a major problem.
It's just a small drip leak. It's nothing, as you can tell, there's nothing on the ground that's affecting anybody. So it's not a major safety issue. It's all contained inside the perimeter.
Cosme says the price to fix the leak in the water tower would be approximately $80,000 to $100,000 of city money. Cosme wants you to know the city's Public Works Department does not see any structural issues with the tower. The historic water tower will continue to operate while it awaits repairs. In the studio, Frank McCaffrey, Channel 5 News at 10. And the tributes for former President George H.W. Bush continue here at Bass Pro in Harlingen. They put up a wreath in his honor as well as this poster. We spoke with one Valley resident who broke out a certain souvenir for the day. Louise Butler tells us she has nothing but fond memories of her time working on the Bush Quail campaign team in 1988 and 1992. She says she's saddened by the former president's death and needed to attach something to her clothes today.
This pin was given to some of the people that had worked with the advanced staff, and his name is written on the back. Wow. I wear it a lot, and today I really needed to wear it.
Butler says she never got to speak with the president while working for him, but then in 1992, she says she had an encounter with Bush at a hotel in St. Louis. She notes she found out he wasn't ignoring her work.
I found myself in a corridor that was suddenly filled with Secret Service men and the president and Mrs. Bush. Well, I just stepped to the side, got as close to the wall as I could, smiled and kept my mouth shut, and all of a sudden the president just stopped everyone, walked over to me. He introduced himself.
She says the act of a president introducing himself was just one of many examples of how humble Bush Sr. really was.
Trust me, we all knew who he was, but he thanked me for the work I had done and introduced me to his wife.
She says people she talks with today want to hear stories about the Bush campaign.
I think most everyone here in the Valley appreciates the Bushes and the family, and they recognize what a genuine person he was.
Butler tells us the people of Texas generally loved President Bush Sr., even when he lost his re-election campaign in 1992. Butler tells us she is also still mourning the loss of former First Lady Barbara Bush. She says she remembers Barbara Bush for her great wit. In Harlingen, Frank McCaffrey, Channel 5 News at 5.